Well, welcome to Father and Son, and welcome to you, Tom. We haven't been together for a week or two.
No, I'm doing Darren Hinch's show on 3AW at the moment, and I've got to say, I'm trying to squeeze in 2 jobs each day. And there's been so much going on recently. I mean, what with the riots in London and political exposés here in Australia, shooting deaths in Melbourne last night. Certainly a lot happening.
It certainly is, and there's a big game of football on tonight. I see I've got my tie on here, Carlton tie. Carlton takes on Hawthorn.
I've actually got, show up the camera, I've got some Carlton cufflinks on there. So
that's why you're informally dressed.
Yeah.
You shouldn't go to work dressed like this.
No, I know. Well, I was wearing a suit, now I'm wearing this. But look, it's a big game tonight between 3rd and 4th. Now, Carlton only has this game and one other. They have a bye before the end of the season. Even if they win, they still could lose 4th spot.
Well, we will lose 4th spot unless West Coast loses a game.
Yeah.
And the only chance I can see West Coast losing is against Essendon tomorrow night. So we'll all be bearing for Essendon, which is most unlike us. And if Carlton wins its last 2 games, if West Coast wins, we finish 5th. If Carlton loses its last 2 games, we still finish 5th.
Exactly.
But the importance of tonight's game is that this is 3rd versus 4th, and it'll give them whoever wins this will have a psychological edge going into the finals.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mean, Carlton has not played Hawthorn this year. This is the bizarre thing with the AFL scheduling these days. We've played most teams twice, yet we haven't played Hawthorn once. And Hawthorn has beaten Carlton every game since about 2005, sometimes by
last 7 matches.
Yeah, by quite big margins in some cases. So it will be a big test tonight.
Carlton's been playing much better footy this year than over those last 5 years.
They are, and fullback Michael Jamieson back in the team. We'll see how he goes against Buddy Franklin.
Well, he's got to get a bit of fitness, and he's got to play a few games before the finals to be any use in the finals, I think.
Well, he's got 2 games. He's got 2 games to play tonight and St Kilda.
Well, I think he may even play on the Carlton bye. He could play for the Bullets.
Play for the VFL.
Well, getting on to serious subjects, not the football isn't very serious. I suppose the Foster's bid looks like it's on again. When they made an offer. The board, I think, very foolishly, didn't even entertain any discussion with them, and now they've gone hostile.
Well, they have. What's happened? The original bid was made privately to the board at $4.90. It was not a hostile bid in the sense they hoped to engage with the board. As you point out, the board just said, no, it's not enough, we're not going to talk with you. A couple of days ago, SAB Miller went hostile. What is interesting, normally when you do that, you up your price a bit to put pressure on the board. SAB Miller has kept its price at $4.90. I think the reason is that the overall share markets have been so volatile that perhaps they feel they don't really need to offer much more. Now, my prediction is this. I would have thought prior to all the recent volatility, they were going to have to pay at least $5.50 to get a deal over the line. I reckon that price has probably dropped 5% to around $5.25 now. So, I think there's an increase, but perhaps not a big one coming. And I think that the board will have no choice fairly soon but to engage in some sort of negotiation with SAB Miller.
I think that's right too. And they'd be nuts not to, because otherwise the thing could go off at $4.95.
Well, that's right, and they would rather get a board recommendation. It's interesting because Asahi, which we've spoken about in the past, used to own a big chunk of Foster's, but they own 20%.
I sold it to them.
Yeah, and they sadly sold it, or sadly for them at least. They've been doing some smaller acquisitions, but I wonder whether Asahi still might enter the fray. What do you think?
I don't know. Well, the Japanese there, Kirin's there in a big way now in Australia.
They own Lion Nathan, yes.
They do. They're very insular, the Japanese, and even Asahi. They were very insular people. They quite enjoyed their association, but I doubt they don't seem to be the right sort of people to be making takeovers.
No, and they don't like getting into hostile bids with other companies. Having said that, I understand there's a growing understanding, if you like, in Japanese companies that they have to have more assets outside Japan.
Yes.
Japan itself, the population is shrinking, the economy is certainly not growing. And Australia at least is doing a lot better than the rest of the world. Speaking of that last night, you would have seen the share market in the US fell almost 4% overnight.
I saw that.
Now you remember the mid-1970s when under the Whitlam government here and around the world we suffered from stagflation, that is rising inflation and flat economic growth. Well, that's what looks like happening in the US. They had a rising CPI number last night, but they also had increase in people needing welfare for unemployment. So it looks like the 70s stagflation could be back with them.
Yeah. Fortunately, that's not happening here.
No.
Asia's still going along pretty well. A lot of people say, the end of the China boom must come about. I think it's a long way off myself. I think it's another good 15 years and I mean, they're just going leaps and bounds. They've got a long way to go. So I think Australia's going to be well insulated. But the politics is warming up too, Tom.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you like this guy? What's his name?
Craig Thompson. Yeah, he's the member of a seat called DeBell, which is the New South Wales Central Coast. Now, we've got to be careful what we say here, but it's alleged that he's stolen a lot of money from his own union, and it's alleged that he used a credit card and a mobile phone for improper purposes. And the Age reports today that calls to a brothel were made regularly using...
Front page on the Age up the top here.
Now, what's happening is that apparently the Federal Labor Party is supporting him. He was in a lawsuit against the Fairfax newspapers, against the Age. That's apparently cost quite a few $100,000.
He finally withdrew.
He did. But it's cost him a lot of money. The Labor Party is propping him up because if he's bankrupt, he loses his seat in Parliament.
Yes.
If he's found guilty of a criminal offence, he loses his seat in Parliament. And of course, given the government has a majority of one, they cannot afford to lose any MPs like this. And his seat is a marginal seat, so if there was a by-election, the coalition would probably win it.
Yeah, that's the Age says they would win it. So this probably means, I mean, the whole thing about whether there's a by-election, whether he stays in the Parliament, won't be the Labor Party or the Conservative Party. It'll be the Union, what they think of whether he has pinched the money, and obviously he's been going to brothels.
Well, that's right, and it's interesting because the union movement, depending on which union you look at, is in some cases distancing itself from the Labor Party. Some are allying themselves with the Greens, others are saying, well, we'll just be our own voice and no longer be associated with Labor. And in this case, it'll be a very interesting test, but everybody's been saying, oh, well, the Parliament will last till 2013. It might not. I mean, we could have a by-election.
Do we know what the Health Services Union, what their attitude is to the Labor Party?
I'm not au fait with these things. I spoke yesterday with Graham Richardson, interviewed him on 3AW briefly. He said he thought that Labor would continue to back Craig Thompson and that he would be okay. But he also pointed out, he said, well, look, another big issue on which the government could fall is the issue of poker machines. Now, Andrew Wilkie in Tasmania said he would only support the government if they introduced nationwide limits on poker machine gambling. And both Rob Oakeshott and Tony Windsor, who represent semi-rural electorates, have said that clubs in their area absolutely need poker machines to survive. So there's another issue on which the government could fall.
Yeah, if there was a by-election, and let's say the Liberals won it, and then they had the control of the Parliament, they would call they'd call a full general election immediately.
They probably
would be a double dissolution because they want to get rid of the majority of Green senators.
Yep, they would. I mean, they could. Actually, they wouldn't have to. It has been done in the past. I think in World War II when Menzies lost the majority in Parliament. But they could just say, well, we're the new government now and power could pass. I don't think the Australian people would necessarily stand for that. Of course, that happens.
No, but the Liberals, the Conservatives wouldn't want to have the Parliament like it is.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
They would definitely call an election.
I know, but I'm simply saying they don't have to call one, but they probably would. They would.
In fact, talking to the leader of the opposition privately myself, I know that's what he would do.
Yes, and judging by the opinion polls, which have been overwhelmingly in favour of the opposition, that they'd win and they'd win handsomely. It'd be like the landslide of '75 when Whitlam got thrown out by the Australian people.
All right, well that's about all for this week. I hope you all have a good weekend. It's Friday here today, and go the Blues.
Go the Blues.